lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan. I got my co-host with me. Manny's here.
Hi, Manny. Yeah.
And we're going to be talking with Erik Larsen. We're going to, talk some Savage Dragon. It's been a little while since I've had you on, Erik. So I'm super stoked to kind of talk about some of the issues. Last time we talked, I think, was 262. So there was a gap between 262 and 263. So I kind of wanted,
man.
Yeah. So I'm glad.
What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm really glad that, it's, coming back regularly again. I always miss it when it's not out and not coming out. So, and in that you were doing Ant as well. I know Ant's on a little bit of a hiatus right now.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about, real quick, since there was that gap between the issues, did taking the time off between writing, I know you were always doing stuff. I know you told me you were always
it didn't help.
no, I not help, but did it maybe change the direction of where you were gonna go with the book?
God, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of I feel like I've just been doing some of the same stuff over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a change of venue would be good. So, I mean, I guess maybe it did. I hadn't thought about it, but you could be right.
So, I mean, and did you think, because I know you were doing Ant at the same time, right? So, I mean, I can't remember the last time you were doing two books that were coming out at the same time. Did that kind of affect it too a little bit, you think? Or not really?
Likely it did. It's a bad thing because before that, I had a time where everything was hitting on all cylinders and I was just getting stuff done. I was like, oh, I could do another book. And I'll do it in this different kind of style and a different approach. So maybe it'll be faster or whatever. Not I colored it like an idiot. But
I love the coloring on the book.
But it's like and then I just kind of hit this wall and I was like, oh crap. Now I can't do either of them. That's no good. So we'll see how it goes going forward, but so far so good.
I mean, you feel like you're kind of I'm seeing the regularity of the comics coming out, but how far ahead are you kind of in terms of
none.
where we're at?
None. I'm never far ahead. I'm never far ahead.
Oh, wow.
So I'm always drawing a cover with no idea what actually is going to be in the comic. So then I have to do the comic to fit the cover. And so it's like I've got kind of vague plans for the future. Like I know Angel's going to get married at some point, so let's pop that on a cover and deal with that. Or the gang's moving to a different place, so we can do that as a cover. Will those characters be wearing the clothes they're wearing on the cover? No, they won't. But is it a cover? Yeah. And kind of I had done the same with Toronto where I was like, I'm going to dress them the way tourists who've never been to Toronto would think people from Toronto dress, was kind of how I was thinking about it. And so this is what we think people who live in San Francisco dress like. And then you get here and it's like, oh, everybody just dresses like everybody anywhere else in the country. So this isn't unusual at all. I mean, there's probably more hippies here in some areas than the rest of the country, but not really. It's pretty much everybody's the same everywhere. I mean, so you travel to some parts of the country, it's like, oh wow, everybody here is wearing hats. But I mean, that's really the big difference. Anyway.
And in terms of deciding to, I'll go back to Paul Dragon because I kind of want to talk about that one-off issue.
Right.
I really dug that issue. But you talked about moving them, right? It kind of coincides with now Trump's not in office. I mean, so it's he's coming back, right? But what was the decision to kind of move him to San Francisco to join this strike force? And I love I know the callback is definitely this character called Youngblood is obviously a callback to Rob's team. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that was it.
Yeah.
I had people refer to Youngblood in the book, and if you go back and read the last few years, whenever I refer to Youngblood, in my mind, I'm thinking this is an individual. This isn't the team Youngblood,
Mhm.
and the readers don't know that, but I know that.
Yeah.
So I figured at one point I got to reveal what this guy looks like. So I figured out something, and there we go.
So why the choice to finally move in back into the US? What was the decision?
I kind of felt like it was time. It's like they kind of moved up there so I could avoid politics for a while and just concentrate on something new. I really wanted to have a clean slate at some point. I never really did it because I really wanted to go, okay, well, this is Dragon Senior's life, and this is his rogues gallery. Now here's Malcolm Dragon's life and his rogues gallery. And I never really made that break. There's been a few where it's like, these are new villains. These are going to be Malcolm's. I'd kill them off immediately.
Yeah.
But the idea was I do want to build his own thing. So it doesn't feel like straight up extension of what was going on with his papa. But then I moved the vicious circle up there, and it's like, oh, these guys are all familiar faces.
Mhm.
What if I just move him clear across the country? It would be really weird if suddenly there's all sorts of people that he knew there. It's like what are the chance of people moving from Chicago to San Francisco? That's kind of a weird move for most people. So, I mean, especially supervillains, like, oh, I'm gonna go walk on Haight Ashbury and get me a tie-dyed shirt.
Yeah, no, I love the fact that he's kept moving and joining this new strike force. I think that I love that about the title, that throughout the years you always kind of find a way to kind of shake it up, but not in a way that's like where you're not rebooting the book. You're just giving it like a new kind of thing, like a new like chapter within
Well,
this overall
most
thing.
of us do that at some point. Most of us make some kind of a move where we're suddenly finding ourselves in a different town or different state or different whatever. Like when I was a real young kid, we moved all the goddamn time for
Same.
no good reason. We were just constantly like, oh, this is our new house now. Okay, I guess I get used to that. Better make some friends because the clock is ticking before we move again. Like, oh, crap. So it's like my longest stretch anywhere was I did end up going to the same school for like 6 years in a row, which is like, all right, I got something going from fifth to 10th grade. Then it was like, oh, now we're gonna move again. You gotta finish high school elsewhere. I was like, oh, but I thought, let's shake this up. I don't feel like I need to touch on politics as much. I didn't want to. So what's the best way to do that? It's like get him far away from everything and just don't deal with it.
Mm.
But I'm sure when the next election rolls around, they'll be like, all right, gonna do this.
I mean, I love those issues, so I'm ready for them.
I got a quick question, actually. We've been mainly following Malcolm for a while, but now that you've brought Paul into the story and like it's such a big part, like are you planning to sort of balance the two? You know what I mean? As far as like what the focus is gonna be on? Like, I mean, how
Well, Paul is, I mean, because it's set in real time,
right. Yeah, that's what I'm
right? Paul's a 60-year-old man.
correct. Yeah.
So do we want to continue to watch the adventures of a 60-year-old man? And it's like, how super functional is he going to be in any kind of a fight situation as a 60-year-old man? It's like, I mean, yeah, I guess they did it with Rocky, but that seemed like it was nonsense, Like the reality is most 60-year-olds aren't out there kicking ass. And I realize he does have powers and a big old robot arm at this point. But the idea was is to keep the focus mostly on Malcolm and then eventually shuffle it to the next generation beyond him. So, but that's gonna take a few years because they're little kids and it's like, let's watch the adventures of 8-year-olds. This is awesome. I don't know. I'm going somewhere with all this nonsense, believe it or not, but it just, this is the way time works. You know, it doesn't happen immediately, you know.
I mean, that's one of my favorite aspects of the book is the real time, being able to watch,
Same.
from, Officer Dragon from the beginning, right? And then going into Malcolm, and now Malcolm, like you said, like he's got the next generation coming up. But I have to say though, 264 has to be one of my favorite issues of Savage Dragon. I loved going and like seeing like the crossover between like your original creations from when you were a kid, right? And then the graphic fantasy stuff kind of integrated into this and all tied in, and giving us a little bit of backstory. So I feel like maybe not adventures following current Paul, but do you see yourself maybe doing more one-offs like this where we're getting stuff in the past?
The problem I had when I was actually working on 264 is I realized I don't remember jack shit about what I did as a kid. It's like my house burned down when I was 28 years old, I think, and it had been years since I had even thumbed through those stories because I was not working on any dragon related anything. I was happily working at Marvel Comics doing Spider-Man when my house burned down. Image Comics wasn't in my brain. It wasn't in the future. It didn't exist in any form that I was going to be working on this dragon guy. So those comics were something that I just didn't really pay that much attention to. They were just things I did when I was a little kid. And so when I'm sitting there doing this thing, I'm combing through anything I can find, any drawings that I could find, anything. And they're few and far between, because it's like I'm looking at some of these comics going, oh, there's a character in the back of that panel there that's really tiny in like graphic fantasy, or in there's this book called Giant Size Mini Comics, and there's one panel in there that's got a bunch of dudes in it. And I was like, oh, look at that. I remember that face. I don't remember what their costume looked like, but I remember that face. And some of these characters that showed up in there, they had new lame costumes because I was like, I know they had a lame costume, that much guaranteed. So I'm just going to give them a lame costume and leave it at that because I don't know exactly what that costume looked like anymore because I haven't seen it in 30, 40 years. So yeah, that became something of a problem. Like, holy crap, man. It's been a long time. 40 years is a long time. You can forget a lot of stuff in 40 years.
For sure. I wanted to mention because I feel like I saw it on your Facebook. You posted somebody returned some original art to you, right? From like early Dragon stuff.
Yeah. That was, there was a guy named Paul Curtis, who is the younger brother of Maggie Thompson. I don't know if that name means anything to you, but Don and Maggie Thompson used to be the co-editors of the Comics Buyer's Guide. It was a weekly newspaper that went on for years and years and years and years. I grew up with a Comics Buyer's Guide. That was this thing. But
I remember it.
When I published graphic fantasy years ago, 19-year-old kid, Paul Curtis was a guy who was publishing his own mini comics, and he contacted me. We exchanged different comics that we had published on our own. So he got graphic fantasy, and I got whatever mini comics he had put out. And I supported him. He supported me. We kind of were pen pals back and forth. And he had this ambitious idea of, I want to do this thing called Plenty-O Comics. And I'm going to get a bunch of guys to all do short stories in the same format. And it'll just be this big book of all this stuff. I was like, okay, well, I'm game. And I wrote and drew a 10-page story for him. They're tiny, tiny pages. They're really, really small. I didn't realize they were that small. And I sent the art to him, and he just never got it together to put it out. And I never got it returned. So he passed away recently. Maggie was going through his, and in there was this dragon thing, and she said, hey, she contacted me because she knew me and was like, what do you want me to do with this? I'm like, holy crap, send it back. So that was pretty nice to be able to get something that it's like I've so little stuff from back when I was a kid because of the fire.
Right.
So I've got a few things that ended up at my grandma's house. I had a teacher from grammar school who I had done some like don't smoking posters and crap like that.
Mm-hmm.
He contacted me a few years back and said, hey, I've got all this stuff. I'm not a teacher anymore. Do you want it back? And hell yeah, bring it. So I got some weird stuff from him. And then, little things that, this was at my dad's place. And then, he gave me back a bunch of stuff some years ago. So, it's like as soon as the fire had happened, he was like, well, I've been saving copies of all your comics all this time. So if you want them back, here you go. And
That's
so it's
awesome.
like, oh, awesome. And now I run a Spider-Man deck, and I've got my Doom Patrols and whatever else I happen to be working on, because he was a good guy. Anyway, so that's kind of the story of that short thing. It's nice to get it back. I had seen copies of it. I just didn't realize that the original art, I'd forgotten that the original art still existed. And I know there's some other story out there somewhere that I had done for somebody that was really short. I don't know if that'll ever turn up, but
Any chance you might throw those pages in the back of an issue of Savage Dragon?
oh, I reprinted them a long time ago. They were already in.
They were the ones that you got back from.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't remember seeing.
Yeah, I know. I've printed them like 3 times.
Oh, okay.
Once in Savage Dragon Archives. Once in I want to say
Oh, okay.
Dragon 179. I'd have to look it up. But I know recently because I'd colored it, and I mean it's not a beautiful thing, but it did exist. So yeah, it's weird. I'm like coloring the Megaton stuff right now so that I can run it in the book at some point.
The Megaton Archives book? You're coloring that?
No, I'm actually, this is being colored for, that's going to be a straight reprint of the black and white Megaton stuff. This is for like the next anniversary issue of Dragon. You know how I ran like the graphic fantasy stuff, but in color.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coloring the Vanguard stories.
So dope. That's awesome, man.
So it's like, all right. It's weird because it's like this is stuff I did a million years ago, So it's like this is 40-year-old artwork or almost.
When you're doing that, do those memories just come flooding back from when you were like originally like drawing them, or what is that like, kind of revisiting that stuff in that sense?
I mean, I don't remember the room I was in. I don't remember really necessarily where I was. Yeah, because I mean, I can remember struggling with stuff, and I see all the mistakes now and go, oh crap, I gave him 2 left feet. What do I do? There's a lot of that. There's some really funky feet in here. And there's some really poor drawing in general, but it's all warts and all. You just kind of go, okay, here it is.
It's always cool to see that stuff, though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's neat in a way to go, oh look, this guy used to be terrible, but it's good for my ego because then I've got anybody who says your old stuff was better, I can go, no, here's my old stuff. Look, I was terrible. All right, you got me on that. But yeah, it's fun to do. I enjoy the process of coloring a whole lot. And it's very transformative to take this old stuff and try and go, okay, well, if it was published at that time in color, given the limitations of the time, what might it have looked like? Is my approach to it. So I'm using the old limitations of those colors. Like you had 25%, 50%, 100%. Make of that as you will, because you don't have any. There are no other color options here. There's nothing else you can do. So I'm treating it like that. And I'm putting a fake newsprint on it, calling it beautiful.
I'm here for it though.
I wanted to ask you about North Force because I grew up really loving Alpha Flight, so I like kind of your take on on it. So with Malcolm now, moving over to San Francisco and away from Toronto, like are we gonna see any more of North Force or like maybe some of their adventures? Because I know you
Yeah,
allude
we
to so
will.
many things.
We
We
will.
will. Okay, I'm excited for that because
Yeah.
I really like them as a team and like
Yeah.
I'd
There's
love to see more of them.
yeah, there'll probably be a mini series at some point.
I wanted to ask. Yeah,
And
nice.
they will be in 267, I believe. I think there's a backup story in there. So we'll see when it gets done.
That's the wedding
it's
issue, right?
yeah, it's putting together one of those big issues is always like herding cats because there's other guys who are doing backup stories. It's like, oh, if this guy gets his act together, this will be awesome. If not, I've got a 10-page hole that I need to find a way to fill. So what the hell? So it can be really hair raising right up until the last minute. So kind of part of coloring these backup stories is to have a little insurance. So like, all right, if this doesn't happen, I got this thing that I can plug in there. And if it does happen, then I've got the story that's sitting here colored that I could put in the next anniversary issue.
Those anniversary issues are always some of my favorite. I love the 100-pagers,
I like the format. I just like that it's this chunky thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's great when it's all when the book is great all the way through. But even if it's not, I still like that it's a big book.
Same. How do you come up choose are people coming to you wanting to participate in the backup stories or
yeah, that happens. That happens a fair amount, and occasionally there'll be people that I'll seek out but it's very organic the way that kind of comes together. And this one, I like an idiot. I didn't even occur to me that I should be doing an anniversary issue. Then Eric Stevenson, the publisher at Image, said, "Hey, it's right around 30 years of the ongoing book. You should do a special issue." I was like, oh crap. I was hoping not to have to do another 100-page issue till 300, but I guess. I mean, probably 275 will roll around. I go, oh, I've been doing it every 25 issues. I guess I got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, well, 267, that's another 8 issues in between. So
yeah, that's not enough.
I mean, we'll buy it. You drop another 100-pager, we're here for it.
Yeah, so. The thing is, issue 25 wasn't a 100-pager. But it was somewhat fatter issue. Mm-hmm. And then 50 was my first 100-pager. Mm-hmm. And then 75 wasn't 100 pages. Then 100 was, and then 115 was for no goddamn good reason. And then 125 wasn't. But it was still a fatter issue. And then 150 was, I don't remember.
75 was a little bit thicker. I don't know if it was 100-page, but it was thicker for sure.
Yeah, I guess it's been every 50 seems like it needs to be.
That makes sense.
So 300 will have to be. There's no way I could just be like, well, I'm at 300. Here's a regular issue. Second, kid. God damn it. And people's expectations for that issue are just through the roof. Like, oh my God, I can't wait till 300. It's like, what do you think I'm going to do? And because I was just going to keep going. I wasn't going to be the grand finale or anything.
I mean, 300 is just a huge milestone. So
yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's like, oh, Dave Sim did 300 issues of Cerebus, so you'll be the first guy to do whatever. Draw his own book for more than 300 issues. Like, all right.
I also wanted to ask you about ever since you came back from the hiatus, like the intensity of the narrative has been so good. Like every issue has like not just one, but like multiple like oh shit moments for me.
Like
Like
this, like
yeah,
this.
exactly
Look
like
at that,
that. Like
dude. It's
that really
insane.
was like jaw dropping, or like I didn't expect that. Like I heard the slice of the sword hit the head. Like it was so
Yeah.
impactful. Like you think taking that time off like made you want to like hit the ground running so hard with so many
Uh,
great moments, or
I don't know, man. I like to think I'm trying to hit those moments all the time, you
because
know?
you are. I mean, like I said, every issue has had a moment that's made you say, "Holy shit!" You can ask
Yeah.
Ryan because like
Yeah.
we'll text back and forth and I'm like, "Did you see that fucking page?" You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Yeah, there's times where something just working in a different way or trying something else out, suddenly you go, oh, my brain is come up with something. And it's, yeah, I don't know. For whatever reason that there was that big gap because that was a struggle. And I definitely have times where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to do another issue again. This seems like
oh,
I may not be able to. I can't come up with anything. Oh, I'm doomed. Oh, I'm going off the edge. And then suddenly it's like, oh no, wait a minute, I could do this. I've done this before. God, such a basket
because
case at this point.
that fight with Samurai was like it was one of my favorite things in the recent like span of issues, and like I don't know if I'm just
I
if it's
love
just
this
me,
one
but
too from 264. This is just
oh dude, yeah,
insane.
I
Look
wanted
at
to
this
talk about
thing,
that.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
I had several friends that read the comic like message me about that spread, like.
Yeah.
holy crap.
But the fight with Samurai, for some reason, it reminded me of Mars' fight with Kevin in Sin City. I don't know if like that was on
Oh,
your
wow.
mind, like maybe because of the
That
snow,
wasn't in my brain
and
at all, but I'll take it.
oh, yeah, just like the like I guess the impact and like the visceral nature of it,
Brutality of it,
like
yeah.
yeah, the brutality of it, like it just again, like I really love what you've been doing lately. Like every issue is just pushing everything forward so strongly. Like I am very excited that you're going on this
Oh,
route
cool.
because like every issue feels like a holy shit issue. I keep saying that, but that's what
Yeah.
it feels like, Yeah.
No pressure, man. No pressure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I even love like, just in 265, like how you have Billy, right? And Paul and Alex talking about, I mean, spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't read it, but I'm going to talk about it. But like, they're going to adopt him and then he's gone, dude. He's just like, Slag, you're done. And and then, like you deal with
I'll
the
follow
after
up on
effects.
Yeah, no, there was a bunch of little stuff that was like, oh, I got to do this and establish that. And it's always tough because I feel like I need to cover a month's worth of ground in
Mhm.
every issue. So and then I 264 didn't do anything in terms
Right.
of, I mean, all it was is pure backstory. There was none of the characters progressed at all. So I was really like, holy crap, I'm strapped for time. I need to get a lot of stuff done in rapid succession. So that's what ends up happening with some of these issues is they feel like, wow, there's a lot going on super fast. What the hell? It's because I need to get caught up to real time. This is real time. It's April and there's snow on the ground. How come there's snow on the ground? Like we need to get past April. Let's go. We got months to cover. But do what I can. So now it's like tearful goodbyes and packing up and moving and getting the hell out of here and going on to the next place.
Yeah. So what kind of like what's next for Dragon in San Francisco? Like how like what issue are you at this point? Because I think
Oh,
you
I'm
told
not
me.
very far ahead. Basically what I do is in terms of work is I know I've got this huge body of stuff that needs to get done.
Mhm.
So my goal at any moment is, okay, well, what do I feel like doing now? And what can I do now? And even if I'm sitting there struggling, going, "Ah, I don't really know what to do on the next page," I'll be like, well, I've got a letters page that needs to get done, so I'll work on that. I've got the next Ultimate collection that needs to be put together, I'll work on that. I've got, stories that need to be colored for the back of 267. Let's get some of that going. So mostly I'm just, just keep moving because there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to get done. So get something done. Even when you're sitting here scratching your head, like I don't quite have the logistics of where things go from one to the. So I'm still working on 266 right now, actually.
Okay.
I've got pages done. But it's not done. It's not like I'm not like a page away from being finished. I'm a little farther away than that. Sorry to say.
Okay.
But there's a lot of logistical stuff where I'm sitting there going, okay, well, who's everybody that we need to say goodbye to? Because there's a bunch of characters that like, okay, you're not going to see this guy either again or for a while. Then there's a matter of, him trying to assemble a team. Like if I'm doing this SOS thing and they want to have me in charge, who's going to be coming over to the West Coast with me and who's staying someplace else, try to put together a team that would be cool. The easy obvious would be to pull in everybody from what is it, 248, 249, where I had the Johnson twins and Widow's daughters.
Yeah.
I mean that's like, hey, and bring in Angel, and it's like, okay, well you got 6 people right there. You're how many more do you need?
Mhm.
It's going to be a team. How much stuff there is there to deal with? I don't know. I'm still kind of weighing. Do I want this to be just a team that just covers the real local area here, or am I trying to cover the whole West Coast? Because you start doing the whole West Coast, then it's like, oh, now I need to get something akin to a fantastic car so I can get from one place to another. Or can we install a pneumatic tube and shoot us over to Los Angeles if we need to be there? Because a lot of those places are really far away. If you're, it's like I drove up to my son's place a couple days ago, believe it or not, and it's like that's a 10-hour drive. He's up in Portland.
Mhm.
And it's like you start going to farther than that to Seattle or beyond. It's like that's a lot. It takes a lot, and even jumping on an airplane, you're not going to catch a robber in progress if it takes you
Yeah.
2 hours to get there.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
So, you can deal with big stuff. Hey, there's an alien invasion and they're taking their sweet time. Come on over.
And and I know you use like a lot of like public domain characters, and I know that I'm not saying you're going to bring like Winnie the Pooh or anything into your book, but I know there's characters that are going to be like kind of available soon within the next couple of years. Is that something that you've kind of thought about? Maybe kind of trying to put your own spin on some of those and bring them into the book, like you've done like your Daredevil, right?
Yeah, I've done Daredevil and I've done a lot of Captain Tootsie lately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's in North Force, right? So
yeah, he's in and around. I don't know that he's necessarily going to continue to be part of the team.
yeah, well, that was another question.
But yeah, so he at least helped him out. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I don't know who's going to be in the public domain.
I feel like I've heard Golden Age Superman might be, but only that version. With the old S shield. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't know for sure if that's gonna happen. I don't know. I've heard it on like Rob's Observations. He was doing like an episode on public domain characters, and how like Steamboat Willie was one of the ones that's coming back or coming into the public domain.
Yeah. He's Steamboat Willie's been in the public domain. And some of those, it's weird because you get like the Fleischer Superman cartoons are in the public domain now. But what does that mean? Can I draw Superman who looks like that and have him running around? Probably not. Probably asking for trouble. I've heard Captain Marvel is in the public domain.
That would be cool.
Who wants to? But if you're dealing with people who have considerable legal might, the
Yeah.
way Warner Brothers or Disney has, do you want to step on that rattlesnake? You know,
Yeah, probably not.
it's like, holy crap. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, maybe I know that there are Tarzan books that are in the public domain, but there's also somebody who owns Tarzan as a trademark. So while I could have Tarzan show up, I couldn't have the name Tarzan be on the
Right.
cover,
Right.
you know? And what if I had Tarzan show up? How weird would that be? Fucking Tarzan, what's he doing in here?
I think it's interesting you mentioned Captain Marvel because I know that you're a fan. I mean, you show also recently you were comparing the facsimile that they did at DC with your original, which your original looked like one of the cleanest copies of that comic I think I've ever seen. It looked better than the facsimile,
Yeah,
definitely,
it's pretty good.
Yeah. So that would be kind of cool to see if you could maybe, even
Yeah,
if it was like a panel.
if you go on some of those sites where they have like, hey, here's public domain comics,
Mhm.
and you can look them up and flip through them and stuff. I scanned my Wiz comics for those sites. So
Oh
when you look
wow.
at them and go, wow, that looks really clean, it's like, yeah, that's my copy.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
You know,
That
it's
is
just
so
like,
cool.
you know, the copy they had there, it's like, God, this looks terrible. I've got one.
Yeah.
Let me do that. Anyway, yeah, yeah. I love that character. I love that book. I don't know that he would apply in terms of Savage Dragon. I don't know. I mean, it'd be kind of cool just to have him exist. I don't
Mhm.
know that it would be, hey, let's have this guy be around in the book all the time.
Right.
I I love him so much that I feel like I would be another guy who would fuck it up, you know? Because I look at DC and go, you know, time after time, you put people in charge who just do a terrible job, who don't understand the character, who don't understand the concept. I could be the next guy who does that. I could be the next guy who just like, oh, I can't quite draw him right. I can't quite write him right. And look, it's another terrible thing. Only it's got my name in it. Awesome. So yeah, I'm a little trepidatious about that. But mostly I'd rather just make up new dudes, you
Right.
know? It's like it's when I create like North Force, I don't have to worry about any of those guys. There's not going to be somebody knocking on my door going, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Mhm.
Hey, whatever. I'm sure I'm not the only guy who's got a character named Grizzly, but whatever. You know, you do the best you can.
Yeah, I was gonna ask of all the recent characters you've created, like North Force and like the kids and all that, do you have a favorite to write for, or a favorite to even draw? You know?
No, not really. I mean, like in of North Force itself, or just all
Yeah, I
characters.
mean, for instance, North Force. Yeah, do you have a favorite North Force character?
Uh, yeah, I'd have to look at them again. What do I have to? What do those guys look like? Yeah, that splash with them in it.
Yeah,
That's,
this one. That's the one I'm thinking of.
yeah,
Yeah, the parade.
yeah. That's based on a photograph actually of
Oh, really?
yeah. It was a sports rally in Toronto when somebody won some big tournament or something, and all the audience came out and were going
So this is
crazy.
like an act
Oh,
real street in
was
Toronto.
that when the basketball team won possibly the championship? Was it an older photo?
I it's a it was in color.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if it was when the Raptors happened to win. That'd be kind of interesting.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably, yeah. Because there was some photo that was like, oh, this will work in terms of having it be the buildings that are in town and just the composition of it. And I was like, oh, I can put all this stuff up above because there's a lot of buildings that were going up there. And I don't know. It seemed like it could work. And I just changed everything else. But if you
So,
find the photograph, you can go, oh wow, that policeman kind of looks like that policeman.
so you talk a lot about how the book is in real time. So you want this to basically take place almost in as close to our reality as possible. Like,
Yeah,
So
this
visually,
one
like
cover,
when,
but like this one is this issue covers a lot of ground. Like it starts and it's in summer and it ends and
yeah,
it's in winter. So it's like
yes,
we
yeah,
got
because
it,
you start at the beach. Yeah,
right? We got to go there. We got to get there. Um, yeah, there's a lot to cover. But people were like, "Well, whatever happened to Insect? What's going on with her?" So it's like, all right, let's deal with Insect. Let's deal with
yeah, you
all
you
this.
got a lot of emotion out of what happened to Insect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I just want to explore these kids a little bit more so that when they
Yeah,
finally do get to be adults, you're not, or adolescents, or by the time they can start having real adventures, that you go, oh, those are guys. Those are real. I kind of know which the personality of that one and the personality of that one. They're their own person now.
Yeah, like I really love the stuff you've done with Amy, like those issues, those stories that you've done with
Yeah,
her.
Amy. There's like certain characters that kind of make their own sauce.
Mhm.
She's one of them where it's just like put her in something and off she goes. She's having adventures. Whereas some of these other characters, I'm sitting there going, God, what do I do with this guy? I don't have a story for him. But yeah, she's just
Yeah, I mean, it'll also be interesting because, like, look, I mean, the OG dragon, like, he only has Malcolm, but there's four little dragons running around now. So,
yeah.
like, to the focus, like, has that come into your mind of like not just like getting them to that point eventually where they could be the leads, but like, is that something where like all four of them, or do you think that you see it like where just one of them kind of takes center stage for lack of a better way of
yeah,
saying
because
it?
like you could have like a team of drag. You basically could
Yeah,
have
I
a team
know.
of
I
them.
know. I will deal with that when I get there because what I find is if I can make kind of vague long-term plans, but what ends up happening is as time goes on, either I have a better idea or I just get really bored because I feel like I'm stitched to something. It's like I did that flash forward in issue 29 million years ago
Mhm.
with Wild Star and Malcolm in the spacesuit. And that fucking thing weighed on me for years. It's like, oh, I know I need to eventually get there and I need to eventually pay this off. The whole time I'm sitting there going, okay, I need to set this up. And it's just, I didn't like having that just be this weight over my head. That's like, look, you've got to pay this off. So with this, I kind of don't want to go, oh yeah, and the lead character is going to be Tyrone, and Tyrone's going to have this going on, and blah blah blah. It's like, you know, I'm just going to let it kind of play itself out, see where these characters take me. As I introduce new characters and new villains and new situations, that's going to change their lives. So why try to control it now? It's like if you have kids going, oh, and my kid's going to be the president of the United States. Like, really? You got that figured out?
Yeah.
You're going to make that happen? I don't think you can decide what your kids are going to do. It's like
Yeah.
I had two boys. I would have been delighted if either of them wanted to follow in my footsteps, and neither of them had the slightest interest in making comics at all. So it's like, all right, I can't control this. In a way, I feel like that about some of these characters where I go, I don't know what's going to happen here. And each thing that's introduced changes things, because it becomes this domino effect of, oh, well, I established this, which means this has to happen and that has to happen. And then it goes off in this other direction that I didn't necessarily anticipate. When you plot things out way ahead of time, what can end up happening is you're going, but I need to get here and I can't get there unless I have characters act wildly out of character in order to facilitate this plot that I have. So a lot of times I just go, I'm just gonna fucking wing it. I have certain characters that I have no idea what I'm doing with anything with, and they're just kind of wild card characters.
Mhm.
And then there's others where I go, I got this thing in mind of where I want to go, but I'm not gonna nail down every nut and bolt of it. But going into it, well, I know that characters start third grade next year. I know that, you know, there Madeline will be starting kindergarten in the fall. There's just different little things that okay, this character's 26 years old now. This character's 29 years old in August. It's just
No,
uh,
that's awesome because it's like it's almost allowing the characters to just grow on their own like real people. Like I mean,
yeah. And that's
like one of them could become a teacher and not even be a superhero or something. You know what I mean?
oh
If they
yeah,
just
yeah.
happen to,
No, there's all
yeah. Like
sorts of things
that's really
too.
exciting. Yeah.
There's all sorts of stuff where you go, oh, that's where you want to go. Well, then I can take characters off the table or whatever. I've got all these weird. I set up all these dragon. Remember all those dragon babies like that don't have superpowers,
Mhm.
that they're all in
Yeah.
France or something. It's like
That's
at
right.
some
Yeah.
point, I got to bring those characters back into the fold of to some degree. But I could see one of the members, one of the kids, eventually going, "Yeah, I am the chosen one for these guys. So we're off to space, and I'm going to be their leader, and off we go." But that's like I can't do that kind of stuff for 20 years. It's like how the hell old am I going to be still doing this stuff? But
Well, I'm glad you're still thinking that far ahead because
Yeah.
if you continue to write and create Dragon for 20 years, I will continue to read it for 20
Yeah.
years.
I'll be an old fucking man at that point. This stuff
Yeah.
is going to get really loopy.
I mean, no, I think look, there's something about this book just has an energy and a magic to it because to be able to
Uh-huh.
see you do the book by yourself, even going back and redoing an issue so that you had every consecutive issue, like that's why the book is so beloved. That's why it's got such a great fan base. Like anybody that loves Savage Dragon, like when you get together, you start talking about the book. Like Manny and I were talking, like we'll text each other. This
Yeah.
is one of my favorite books, and every time a new one comes out that week, it's my favorite book of the week. It's a book I'm most excited to read, and getting to watch it organically grow, and kind of watch these characters live their lives. Like even this sequence of pages where Malcolm's talking about how he feels useless. North Force isn't leaving anything for him to do. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like it's stuff like that I just love reading about. And then you're talking about like the kids, like they're not going to be moving. That's going to affect kids. Like every kid is affected when they move schools, when they have
Oh
to
yeah,
make
yeah,
friends.
yeah. Like all my friends are gone. I don't have any friends here.
Yeah.
And suddenly, but you know, there's various factors where you go, oh, there's not enough of this kind of kid around, or too much of that, or suddenly you're in your environment, and I'm still sitting there going, which neighborhood am I going to shove them in? In this place. I mean, the easiest would be I'll just put them in my own house, and I'll draw that. I know what all these rooms look like. I can just base them on photographs, but that would be a little bit much, I think.
Yeah, it's just it's great to see, and like I love following the entire Dragon family. I think it's, like watching the book from when I first started reading it and like to now, and it's constantly evolving and it's constantly changing, so it always feels fresh to me. It doesn't feel like stagnant at
Yeah,
all.
well, that's what I want. I want
Yeah.
it to feel fresh, and I want it to be fresh for me, because it can, there's a certain times where I'm just going, oh God, I gotta draw another funeral, for crying out loud. I can't do this anymore. You know, there's been a lot of different like things where you just like, oh, I'm drawing people punching. What can I do that I haven't done before in terms of people punching? Where can I have them fight where I haven't had them fight before? What can I do to shake things up just to make it more fun for me visually and for the readers and everything else? And I'm trying, damn it.
You're succeeding every issue. Like, Manny said too, like every issue has been like a what the fuck moment in there. It's full of heart, humor, and action. Every single issue, like with the double page spreads, so you have those quiet moments, like I said, where they're just walking in the snow, talking, and
Yeah.
like
Some of my favorite moments are the family moments, like
Yeah.
because they seem like such a real family too, like,
Yeah, I mean, I like that stuff. I like that aspect of it. Like, yeah. I mean, I would like to at some point do an issue where there's no fighting at all.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you had any ideas to just do like, an issue where they go on a vacation and nothing happens except the typical family vacation shit. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
it's like
for an example, like,
yeah, I mean, stuff that happens. I've gone on a few vacations and not got into a fist fight.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's unusual, but
Yeah. No, but I think it's, like there's just so much to love about the book. And I think that, it blends so many different, there's so many different genres within the comic
yeah,
book, and I love that about it. And I think that, yeah, it, like I said, it always feels fresh. Like I go back and I'll read old stuff, right? Like, even going back with the Ultimate Collections, I'll talk about that real quick, before, because I don't want to forget to mention it. I love that there's hardcovers of Savage Dragon. I love hardcovers. I will buy multiple versions of books, especially if it's one of my favorite series, So like getting to see that book, and then not to mention the back matter. Like,
oh, the back matter is out of control.
Like I mean, I would have liked more of it, but I know that look, this is one of many, obviously, right? And I love that it follows the format kind of like much like the Invincible Ultimate Collections. It looks really nice right next to them. I just want to get into that. Like, what was it like kind of putting that together and kind of
It was well, the thing with this, I mean, what's the problem is going to be that successive issues can't have as much back matter because it doesn't exist. But this one I was starting off at Image, starting a new book, got a sketchbook going, and all these characters are being created on the spot, where I was like, I need somebody to be fighting Dragon on page 1. What's that character going to look like? Sketchbook, doing a bunch of different drawings. And then I started something that's not working. That page ended up having so much whiteout on it. It was a mess. But I'm trying to figure this stuff out. And then as time goes on, eventually a lot of this stuff is settled at a certain point, So like the sketchbook suddenly doesn't have any drawings of Mako in it anymore because I figured out Mako. I don't need to worry about him or any of some of the other guys. So my sketchbooks really were just a ton of stuff really early on in preparation for the series. And then once the series was going, it's not nearly as much. So the back matter is probably going to trail off somewhat. There's still some stuff for the second, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to manage. I certainly won't be able to manage the number of pages that I did in this one because this was crazy. It was like 60 pages worth of sketches.
It was great.
I don't got 60 pages worth of material for volume 2. But it's fun to find it, and there's stuff where you go, I know I've got that somewhere. I gotta find that and hunt it down, trying to piece together stuff. And then I'm assembling it all myself. So it's like pretty much every page in here I did, in terms of like design and stuff. Like if you don't like the font on the cover, well, that's my fault. I mean, every part about it in the book, like, oh yeah, I put this together. I'm finding the fonts, I'm changing things up, I'm putting all this. So yeah, it ended up it's so much work. That's part of why there was such a big gap between a couple issues, because it's like this thing took me a couple months to put together because there were just so many little pieces to do. And I started doing the back matter for the second book at the same time. So at least some of that has been, at least some of that material has been scanned in. But yeah, everything takes time. I don't have, that's what I don't have. I don't have a lot of time to be able to do all this stuff. I want to,
Mhm.
because I like being hands-on. I like being the guy who puts all the pieces together and stuff like that. But we do realize there's a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, no, I think the design of the book is great. And I love the, in the back, all your notes attached to like all the different images explaining everything you're seeing. Like there's a lot of character designs that I don't think you ever did even anything
Yeah,
with.
there are a bunch. There's, I mean, I'm every now and then I think like I should just go in there and mine this thing for,
Yeah.
like, oh, here's all these characters that I never used. Well, okay. Well, why don't you use them? Like, I guess I could. But yeah, there's all sorts of bad guys that just never materialized, or I did it a second stab at it and came up with something I like more.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. Well, not to mention all these crappy dragon fins. I wish I could remember more of the old stuff I did when I was a kid though, because it was kind of frustrating putting together that 265 where I'm sitting there going, I know that Dragon fought Ralph Johnson like a bunch of times. I couldn't tell you what he did at all in any of those times. I couldn't tell you if Ralph was a genius or an idiot. I couldn't tell you what any of his plots were or what he was trying to accomplish. I just don't remember it. I don't remember any of those stories anymore. And it's like, okay, I remember that this villain was there and that villain was there. And I kind of remember and it's like, God, I thought more of that would come back to me when I was putting it together, but it just didn't. So that was kind of frustrating, but whatever. Moving on.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff was me going, well, I know that the Johnson kids went from being little kids to being grown up. I know that that happened in the comic because I remember drawing them as grown ups, and I know what their costumes look like, and those costumes were in graphic fantasy. So I know that much. Why they turned into adults, I don't really remember what the story was when I was a kid of why they turned into adults. So let me just do something with them. Oh, there's a big demonoid, and Fonte thinks we need these guys to turn into adults to deal with this. Done. But I know in my original comics the Johnson twins weren't twins, that they were born at separate times. I don't remember for sure who the mother was of child two.
Mhm.
I knew his name in my old comics. I called him Gorgon. So he wasn't called Peter. He was just Gorgon, and I don't remember shit, man. It's like, God damn it. It's so
A lot of
frustrating.
issues.
Yeah, a lot of issues, a lot of time too,
There
like
was
you
I mean, there was so much.
Yeah.
Remember, I started this stuff in like fifth grade.
yeah.
So it's like, whatever, 9, 10 years old when I'm started doing this. And I'm
Yeah,
just,
I think it's remarkable that it's so cohesive,
but
it
it's
really
so,
isn't like any other comic.
Yeah.
yeah, but again, it's like, when I'm doing it, I wasn't an adult. I had the mind of a 9-year-old. So
Right.
what does a 9-year-old know about the world? Fucking jack shit is what he knows
Yeah.
about the world. So I don't even know how anything functions. I'm sitting here going, oh, I guess I'll set this part in the desert because that's easy to draw.
Yeah.
you know, so
So
much.
I wanted to ask too, like you always do like really unique stuff. You've done like a digest issue with like issue 190. One of the things that I love that you did, like I think it's been a couple of years now, is issue 252, the newspaper strip
Yeah.
characters. Do you have any? I know that was a difficult issue for you. I remember you telling me that took a lot of time. But is there any other ideas, any kind of like unique things that you that have been percolating in your head that you may want to get to, maybe not soon, but maybe somewhere down the line?
At some point, I want to do an issue where I emulate different comic book artists,
Oh, hell
but
yeah.
Nice.
I don't have a story in mind yet. Because I've done some flashbacks a little bit where it's like, oh, here's a Simon and Kirby type page, and here's a Sal Buscema type page, and here's a Gene Colan kind of thing. And there's a few artists I think I could go, oh, I could probably pull this off.
You had me at Sal Buscema. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But it's like, can I do a full issue like that? And can I do something that would make sense as a story? Because that's a story thing where you go, you better formulate a reason for this style to be changing radically from one page to another. So that would be a, okay, you know, this part of the story starts in the 1940s, so you can do this kind of style. This goes to the 50s, you know, just it would have to be something that's set in certain eras so that I could do that. And then I'd have to pick, you know, however many artists so that it looks like, oh, it definitely changed to another dude. And their style is different enough that it's super obvious. And then I'd have to pull it off somehow, which would be another miracle.
I think you can do it. I want to see that. That sounds like a fucking awesome
That sounds
idea.
amazing. Yeah.
It's just again, finding the appropriate story, and then executing it. But I don't have that in mind. So that's kind of percolating in the back of my head. Because like remember that issue was started with 20 panels, and then it was 19 and 18, 17, and then till it was a splash.
Mm-hmm.
I had laid that out for a different issue. And when I started drawing it, it was like, this story doesn't work with this panel configuration. I'm just going to take these pages and set them aside until I have a story that does work. And it was 4 years before I came up with something that worked. But it was sitting there taunting me the whole time. You know, you want to do you know, just like, hey, you want to do an issue that's all double page spreads? Like, God, that sounds awesome. But you better come up with an idea that's going to work doing all double page spreads, because not every moment in every comic deserves that kind of space. So I want each time I do a double page spread for you to go, yeah, this had to be a double page spread. Of course. Yeah. It's awesome. It's a big moment. It can't be something tiny. It's got to be this big thing. And same with splashes. I don't want to just do splashes willy-nilly. It's like, no, this is a moment. We need to have this be something big.
Yeah, you do some of the best splash pages ever, dude. I mean, I'm telling you, just in the last two issues, those double page spreads that I showed off are just like mind blowing, dude. You just stare at it and you can't like take your eyes off it. But well, so besides we covered Savage Dragon, I know you're working on the Ultimate Collection too. Is there anything else that you are working on right
now? At the moment, no, just because there's so much that needs to be done with both this 100-page issue and with the Ultimate book, which has got a lot of stuff that needs to go into it. So between those two, I know I need to get back to Ant, and I want to get back to Ant, but I've got to get these two huge things out of my life before I can get back to that. So it's like I need to wrap up this next issue of Dragon, and then I've got the next issue after that, which is a motherfucker, and then and then I can start getting it back to like, okay, normal sized issues, yay. But
well, I'm definitely excited for these next couple of issues. Definitely 267. Like I said, I always love when we got a 100-page giant come out with Dragon. I love the backups, getting to see some of the other side characters that don't necessarily get a regular spotlight. And I'm excited to see maybe a North Force miniseries, and maybe I think maybe a Paul Dragon miniseries, maybe even, set in the past. That'd be kind of cool.
It's just again, it's finding the time or finding the appropriate collaborator to
Mhm.
work with on something. And that's not always there. They don't always materialize. So,
Well,
I do what I can.
well, you're doing a lot, man, and we all the Dragon Heads appreciate it. I love everything that's been going on with the
All those
book. And
skinheads, yeah.
yeah. So thank you again. I want to say for taking time to chat with both of us. I always love talking with you, man. And we'll
Alright.
definitely maybe we can jump back on for another one after that 100-page giant is out, so we can kind of unpack that one.
Yeah, good Lord. After I recover from that.
I mean, I'm sure we'll be covering it on our weekly episodes. So.
Yeah, it's definitely it's always a
Yeah.
pick of the week, so we'll definitely be talking
Yeah.
about it then. But would love to
Alright,
have you
guys.
back on.
All right, man.
All right,
I'll
man. Take
talk to you
care.
later then.
All right, Eric. Thank you, man.
All right. See you
Bye.
then. Back
See
to
ya.
it.